Nats Chat is brought to you by Walters. The weekend is upon us, and Walters is a great spot to gather for brunch. From chicken and waffles to Walters breakfast tacos, Walters' menu has something for everyone. On top of that, for only $20, enjoy bottomless drinks, including mimosas, Bloody Marys, Trulies, and old-time lagers.
Walk on over to Walters for Game 2 of the NBA Finals. Tip at 8 p.m. on Sunday night.
Alley into the full windup and the pitch. Soto hits it to center field. Senzel going back, still going back. He's on the warning track. He looks up and it is long gone. It hit the wall of the batter's eye in dead center field.
Breaking ball swung on, hit in the air to deep left field. Back goes Hernandez, way back, going, and gone. Goodbye. A grand slam home run for Albert Almora Jr. Cincinnati 7 and Washington 3.
Diaz looks at it and delivers the 1-1. Soto hits it deep. He hits it high, and he hits it out of here. Second gigantic blast for Juan Soto today.
8-7 Nats. They were down 7-3. 5 unanswered runs. Here's the pitch. Swing and a ground ball. Base hit into right field. Bell scores from third. Franco around third coming home. A single to right, and 2 runs batted in for Luis Garcia.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Sunday, June 5th, 2022. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. Mark Zuckerman is off for this installment of Nats Chat. So we, Monday through Thursday, had that hideous 4-game Nats losing streak during which the Nats were outscored 36-6. Yes, outscored by 30 runs. But we now have back-to-back wins for the Nats, and the Nats, over those back-to-back wins, have totaled 18 runs. Friday night, an 8-5 win at the Cincinnati Reds, and Saturday, a wild back-and-forth 10-8 win at the Reds in Game 3 of a 4-game series between, yes, the 2 worst teams in the National League, but the Nats now have the second worst record in the National League at 20-35. The Reds now have the worst record in the NL at 18-34. Saturday's game was a marathon. If you stayed with it, you earned your gold star as a Nats fan. The game ended up lasting for 3 hours, 44 minutes, but the game ended up being a very entertaining Nats win. Not an easy win, but an entertaining Nats victory. I tell you, Great American Ballpark is doing wonders for the Nats offense. The Nats on Saturday, 10 runs, 16 hits, 4 walks, 7 for 12 with runners in scoring position, and the Nats rallied. They rallied big time. We have not seen a lot of that so far this season. We saw it on Saturday. The Nats came back to win. The boys battled, as Davey Martinez likes to say. The Nats in this game overcame a 7-3 7th-inning deficit. The Nats scored 7 runs over the final 3 innings. In fact, Davey, during his postgame session with reporters on Saturday evening, said that the boys battled and said that he was proud of the boys. Take a listen.
I think these guys battled back. We fell behind. Tough break for Williams. Just couldn't find the strike zone. But the boys battled back. We had good at-bats late in the game. And, Soto comes through with, a big home run. And then the at-bats got better. And just move the ball, put the ball in play, we'll score some runs when our big guys start, hitting the ball like they did today. But it was good. I was proud of the boys. Like I said, these guys don't quit. They play hard till the last out. And you saw that today.
There you go. Vintage Davey Martinez right there. So many heroes for the Nats in this game on Saturday, but guess who homered not once but twice on Saturday? Juan Soto. Yes, the same Juan Soto who through Thursday had seen his OPS for the season plummet to .792, but Soto on Friday night went 1 for 4 with a solo homer and a walk, and Soto on Saturday, as the Nats starting right fielder and number 3 batter, went 2 for 4 with 2 home runs, a solo homer and a 3-run homer. He did strike out twice, but Soto in a Nats 3-run fourth, a leadoff homer to center field to cut the Nats deficit to 2-1. The homer went a projected 423 feet per Statcast. And then Soto in a Nats 3-run seventh smashed a 1-out 3-run homer to right field to cut the Nats deficit to 7-6. The homer went a projected 419 feet per StatCast. So note, the Soto homers, while they happened in the bandbox that is Great American Ballpark, were not functions of Great American Ballpark. These were legitimate big boy home runs, just like his home run on Friday night. Soto on Friday night in an Nats 4-run third had a one-out solo homer to right center field. The homer was the Nats' third homer of the inning, and the homer per StatCast would have projected 400 feet and had an exit velocity of 110.3 miles per hour. So Soto over these last two games has looked like, yes, Juan Soto. Great to see Soto hit as he has hit over these last two games. Here was Davey Martinez during his post-game session with reporters on Saturday evening on Juan Soto.
Yeah, he stayed on the ball, and that's him, not trying to pull the ball. We talked about that, just staying on the ball, staying in the middle of the field. Today, he got two balls up in the zone, and he drove them both, one to center field and one to right center. So that's just who he is. I mean, like I said before, I don't really worry about him. He has a good game plan every day. He does his routine every day. For me, as I talked to him, I said, don't chase, get in the strikes, get the ball in the strike zone. And if you get a ball, even early in the count, and you think you hit it, go ahead and swing. Good chance so you're going to hit it hard.
So Juan Soto on Saturday was one of 5 Nats who each had at least 2 hits in the game. 3 Nats each had 3 hits, including Luis Garcia. Garcia had not been doing so well since the Nats this past Wednesday morning recalled him from AAA Rochester, but Garcia on Saturday did do well. He was the Nats starting shortstop and number 9 batter, 3 for 4 with an RBI double, a 2-run single, another single, and an RBI sac fly. Garcia in the top of the third had a 1-out single to center field. Garcia in the Nats 3-run fourth had a 2-out RBI sac fly for a 3-2 Nats lead. Garcia in the Nats 1-run eighth had a 1-out RBI double to right field to tie the game at 7, a huge hit in the game. And Garcia in the Nats 3-run ninth had a 2-out 2-run single through the right side of the infield for a 10-7 Nats lead. Maikel Franco. How about Mikey Franco? He on Saturday as the Nats starting third baseman and number 8 batter, 3 for 5 with 2 RBI singles and another single. Franco in the Nats 3-run fourth, a 1-out bases loaded first pitch RBI single to left field to tie the game at 2. Franco in the Nats 1-run eighth, a 1-out single to center field on a 1-2 pitch. Franco in the Nats 3-run ninth with runners at the corners, a 2-out RBI single to left center field for an 8-7 Nats lead. I mentioned the Nats on Saturday going a terrific 7 for 12 with runners in scoring position. Franco obviously was a big part of that with what he did in the 3-run fourth, the 1-out bases loaded first pitch RBI single, and with what he did in the 3-run ninth with runners at the corners, the 2-out RBI single. Here now is your Maikel Franco slash line with runners in scoring position this season. We've talked about Franco having done well with runners in scoring position this season, but take a listen to these numbers. Maikel Franco this season with runners in scoring position, batting average of .340, on base percentage of .351, slugging percentage of .509. Those are excellent numbers for a player with runners in scoring position. His overall numbers this season aren't great. They're not terrible, but they're not great. But those numbers are great. I mean, Maikel Franco quantifiably has been clutch for the Nats so far this season. And as we start to really think about, okay, who is a true trade piece for the Nats with that August 2nd MLB trade deadline now less than 2 months away here, I don't know if Maikel Franco is someone who has real legitimate trade value. Like it's hard to mount the horse of, the Nats could get something of true value for Maikel Franco, but I apply now to every potential Nats trade chip what I call the John Lester rule, which is if Mike Rizzo could get something back for John Lester, as Rizzo did last summer and Lane Thomas, then you never dismiss anyone entirely as a potential trade chip. And if Maikel Franco hits well and continues to do well with runners in scoring position, maybe you can get something for him come the trade deadline. I mean, not going to get some premium prospect, obviously, but, there is something to what he has been able to do so far this season with runners in scoring position. And, like I said, overall offensively, it's not like he's been woeful. He just hasn't been that good. But he's been really good with runners in scoring position, and he was clutch again for the Nats in this win on Saturday. The third Nat on Saturday who had 3 hits was Nelson Cruz. In fact, Cruz got on base 4 times in this game. He was a Nats starting DH and number 4 batter, 3 for 4 with 3 singles and a walk. Would you believe that Nelson Cruz, yes, big burly Nelson Cruz in his age 41 season, had an infield single for a second consecutive game. I could not get over this. Cruz in that Nats 3-run fourth, a first pitch infield single on a tapper toward third base. I mean, I don't know why this has happened for Cruz in each of the last 2 games now, but it has. Nelson Cruz on Friday night in a Nats 2-run seventh had a 1-out infield single on a slow dribbler to the left side of the infield. But also for Cruz on Saturday, top of the fifth, a 2-out opposite field single to right center field. Top of the seventh, a 1-out 4-pitch walk. And Cruz in the Nats 3-run ninth, a leadoff opposite field single through the right side of the infield on a 1-2 pitch. You tell me, does any Nats player go the opposite way more these days than Nelson Cruz? It feels like so many of his hits are to the opposite field. And, that's usually the mark of a professional hitter, and Nelson Cruz is that with what he has done in his major league career. Another standout for the Nats on Saturday was Lane Thomas. So Thomas, of course, on Friday night was the star for the Nats. 3 home runs, or at least a star for the Nats, because he had multiple stars for the Nats in that game. But Lane Thomas, off the 3-homer night on Friday night, was good again on Saturday. Now, he didn't hit 3 home runs, but he was productive. He was, in fact, the Nats starting center fielder in this game, and the Nats number 2 batter in the game, as for the first time in a while, Cade Ruiz was the starting catcher, but was not the number 2 batter. Lane Thomas was the number 2 batter. He went 2 for 4, had 2 singles and a walk, and he made a nice defensive play. Thomas in the top of the third, a 2-out single to left field. Thomas in the Nats 3-run seventh, a 1-out first pitch single to left field. Thomas in the top of the eighth drew a 2-out 4-pitch walk, and Thomas made a nice sliding catch of a Tyler Stevenson flyout in shallow right center field for the second out in the bottom of the 7th inning. The biggest nit to pick with the Nats offense on Saturday, and there really wasn't much to complain about. I mean, Yadiel Hernandez struck out 4 times, okay, but he also had a hit. But I think the biggest nit to pick would be this. The Nats again this season had a runner thrown out at home.
Here it comes. Hit on the left side and through for a base hit. Hernandez around third, being waved in by Gary DiSarcina. The throw from Pham to the plate is in time, and he's out at the plate.
It feels like this has happened way too much this season. Happened again on Saturday. So Cesar Hernandez on Saturday as the Nats starting second baseman and number 1 batter, 1 for 5 with a double and a walk. He left 5 men on base, and Cesar in the top of the third reached base via a 1-out force out, but he then was thrown out at home for the 3rd out on a 2-out single to left field by Lane Thomas. Cesar was trying to score from second base, and he ended up being thrown out by quite a bit by the Reds left fielder Tommy Pham. And, we have said some version of that quite a bit this season with Nats players being thrown out at home plates. The guy got thrown out by a mile, or the guy got thrown out by quite a bit. And this happened again here on Saturday. But I do want to give Cesar Hernandez credit for this. He had a big double in that Nats 3-run 7th inning. This was a 1-out full count double to right field. The double concluded a 10-pitch plate appearance. That was some at-bat by Cesar Hernandez.
Diaz into the wind and fires, and Hernandez hits a line drive hard to right field. Going back to right fielder Almora Jr. reaches up, and he drops it. It's off the wall. It was in his glove and came out and hit the wall and comes back to him, and Cesar Hernandez is on at second base with a double.
That concluded a 10-pitch plate appearance. So really good stuff by Cesar Hernandez in that at-bat that resulted in the double. Are you a law firm partner looking for a better situation for your practice and a blockbuster contract worthy of Juan Soto? If so, you should call Mason Kalfas of Zenith Legal in Washington, D.C. He works with law firms and lawyers on finding the perfect match. No platoons, just superstars. Some lawyers switch firms because of conflict. Some lawyers switch firms for a better platform for their practice. And some lawyers switch firms for more money. You need the Scott Boras of legal headhunters working for you, and that's Mason. Mason will work with you to find a better fit for your practice and ultimately the best deal for you and your entire team. Call him today at 202-486-3535 or check out his website, zenithlegal.com. This is an unprecedented time in the legal market, and many top firms are looking to expand. Call Mason today. Zenith Legal also works with associates and distinguishes itself on personal service. Zenith Legal doesn't just spam resumes out to law firms. Zenith Legal talks to the right people and gets your resume in front of the decision makers who matter. Whether you are a Rainmaker partner or a mid-level associate, give Mason Kalfas at Zenith Legal a call today to accelerate your career. Call today, 202-486-3535. 888-203-3535.
Now the pitch, breaking ball into the ground, through the hole, a base hit into left field. This is going to score a couple. Hernandez up from left, trying to throw toward the plate, too late. And 2 runs score for the Reds. Senzel in from third, Drury in from second. And with 2 out here in the bottom of the first inning and runners on first and second, it's the Reds 2 and the Nationals nothing.
The Nats starting pitcher on Saturday was Erick Fedde, and Fedde was coming off a woeful outing. Fedde in a 13-5 Nats loss at the New York Mets this past Monday night. 6 runs in 1 1/3 innings. He, in that game, gave up 8 hits, a homer, a double, and 6 singles. He issued 1 walk. He recorded no strikeouts, gave up a lot of hard contact in that game. Well, Fedde, in this 10-8 win at the Reds on Saturday, struggled again. Now, he didn't struggle as badly as he struggled this past Monday night, but Fedde was bad for a second consecutive start here. Fedde allowed 4 runs in 4 2/3 innings. He gave up 7 hits, all of which were singles. He issued 2 walks. He recorded just 1 strikeout. He over his 4 2/3 innings threw 86 pitches, 52 strikes versus 34 balls. Fedde in the bottom of the first allowed 2 runs. Fedde gave up a leadoff full count single to Nick Senzel up the middle, despite Senzel having been down to the count at 1.02. Fedde issued a 6-pitch walk of Brandon Drury. Fedde issued a 2-out, 5-pitch walk of Tyler Stevenson to load the bases, and Fedde gave up a 2-out, bases-loaded, 2-run single to Kyle Farmer through the left side of the infield and passed a diving Luis Garcia at shortstop for a 2-0 Reds lead, despite Farmer having been down in the count at 1.02. So note what happened in this inning. You had Fedde giving up 2 singles, and in each case, the batter at one point was down 0-2. Fedde didn't put the guy away, ended up allowing the guy to get a single. And Fedde in the inning issued 2 walks, including a killer 2-out, 5-pitch walk of Tyler Stevenson to load the bases. I mean, this bottom of the first inning in a lot of ways captures what still aggravates you with Erick Fedde and what still prevents Erick Fedde from taking that next step as a starting pitcher. He has a hard time putting away batters. I mean, Erick Fedde now, over his last 2 starts, has totaled 1 strikeout, okay? And, you know, Fedde had been better over the last 2 seasons in generating strikeouts, but that seems to have gone bye-bye here over these last few outings. And Fedde, of course, those 2 walks in that inning, in that bottom of the first, it just, you know, it's like, it's hard to pitch well when you're doing something like that, issuing walks like that, especially a 2-out walk to load the bases. Now, Fedde did then toss scoreless second, third, and fourth innings. He gave up 3 singles over the third and fourth innings, but he settled down. You know, the run prevention was there. But he then got charged with 2 runs in a 5-run Reds 5th. Now, in that 5-run Reds 5th was Josh Weems, and I'll get to him shortly. But Fedde in this inning put 2 guys on base via a single. He gave up a leadoff single to Brandon Drury to left field, past a diving Luis Garcia at shortstop, and Fedde gave up a 2-out single to Tyler Stevenson to left field, and then was pulled from the game. And, you know, if you watch the game, Fedde did not seem happy with getting pulled in that spot and seemed to be mean-mugging Davey Martinez as Davey came out to pull Fedde. But, I mean, if you're Erick Fedde, what's your argument for saying, all right, Davey, leave me in the game? Like, you know, you're not Max Scherzer in the 7th inning of a big October classic trying to say, hey, let me stay in the game, Skip, because I'm Max and I can give you 1 more great inning. Like, no, you're Erick Fedde. You're putting guys on base like crazy. You've totaled 1 strikeout over your last 2 outings. And so Fedde, to his credit, just kind of took his medicine and went back to the dugout. Here was Davey Martinez during his postgame session with reporters on Saturday evening on Erick Fedde.
He didn't have any command with his cutter, so he went more to his two-seamer. But like I said, he battled. Man, he battled. I mean, he could have easily fell apart. And you know, but we talked about the maturity of Fedde now, right? And he understands. Hey, he's got to continue to go out there and continue to try to get outs for us and keep us in the game. And he did that today.
All right, so Erick Fedde this season now, over 11 starts, has an ERA of 4.88 and a whip of 1.57. Remember, as of 9 starts into his season, Fedde's ERA for the season was 3.55. So the ERA is shot up with what has gone down here over his last 2 starts. But, you know, the whip really is what stands out. He puts a lot of guys on base, even when he was pitching well this season in terms of run prevention. Fedde still was putting guys on base, but I think if you're trying to cling to something with Erick Fedde, it would be this. We're just a few starts removed from that terrific outing that he had in that 1-0 Nats win over the Los Angeles Dodgers at Nationals Park on May 25th. I mean, May 25th was not that long ago, and Fedde in that game, 6 scoreless innings, 6 strikeouts, versus 1 walk against the mighty Dodgers. So he has within him the ability to pitch well. We just have not seen that here now over his last 2 starts. And then there was the Nats bullpen on Saturday. Davey Martinez ended up using 5 relievers in this game. 3 of the 5 did really well. The other 2 had issues, including Josh Weems. Josh Weems was a complete disaster in the bottom of the 5th. And as Josh Weems was not pitching well in that inning, there were shots of Fedde in the dugout, and he was just staring at Weems because the game seemingly fell right out of the Nats' grasp with what happened with Josh Weems in that bottom of the 5th inning. So Weems entered the game in the bottom of the 5th with runners on first and second, 2 outs, and the Nats leading 3-2. Weems promptly issued a 2-out, 7-pitch walk of Kyle Farmer to load the bases. Weems then issued a 2-out, bases-loaded 11-pitch walk of Mike Moustakas to tie the game at 3, despite him having been down to the count at 1.02. So let's hit pause here and just focus on that for a moment, okay? So you're Josh Weems, you come into the game, 2 guys are on base, you walk the first batter you face, and then with the next batter, you have him down 0-2, you end up walking him to bring in a run that is the tying run, and that plate appearance ended up being an 11-pitch plate appearance. Just, really bad stuff, right, from a reliever to walk the first 2 batters he faces and to have the second guy down 0-2, and then you end up going to an 11-pitch saga with the guy, and you end up walking him to bring in the tying run. And then came the big blow. Josh Weems giving up a 2-out grand slam to Albert Almora Jr. on a blast to left field for a 7-3 Reds lead. Albert Almora Jr. entered this game on Saturday having hit 1 home run this season. Now, it's not like he had accumulated hundreds of plate appearances this season, I'll grant you that, but still, Almora had 1 home run this season coming into this game on Saturday, ends up hitting a grand slam off Josh Weems to put the Reds up 7-3 in the bottom of the 5th inning. And at that point, you felt like, all right, the Nats are not winning this game, right? But 3 Nats relievers then came in and were excellent, including the secret weapon. The secret weapon was great once again. Paolo Espino, and yes, another low-leverage spot because God forbid this guy ever pitches in a close game or in anything close to a big spot, although this ended up proving to be a semi-big spot with the game becoming close again. But Paolo Espino tossed a perfect bottom of the 6th with 2 strikeouts. But I want you to know this about this latest gem from our guy, the secret weapon, Paolo Espino. And by the way, you can get yourself a Nats Chat Podcast secret weapon t-shirt by going to natschatpodcast.square.site. But Paolo Espino, perfect bottom of the 6th, 2 strikeouts. He did this in facing the Reds numbers 1 through 3 batters, okay? So it's not like he was facing the bottom of the order, okay? And I know, this is not the big red machine of the 1970s here, but he was facing the Reds numbers 1 through 3 batters, and yet Paolo Espino, a perfect bottom of the 6th with 2 strikeouts. Paolo Espino now this season has an ERA at 2.10. I'm not going to give the same spiel that we've given about Paolo Espino needing to pitch in bigger spots, but I'll just say it in a very succinct and mild manner here. Paolo Espino needs to pitch in bigger spots. He wasn't the only Nats reliever who pitched well, though, in this game. Carl Edwards Jr., who really has looked good lately, he was good in this game. A perfect bottom of the 7th inning. More and more Carl Edwards Jr. might be a trade chip for the Nats. Kyle Finnegan was lights out in this game. A perfect bottom of the 8th with 3 strikeouts. So 6th, 7th, and 8th innings, Paolo Espino, Carl Edwards, Kyle Finnegan, perfection, 3 up, 3 down in each inning. And you had, over those 3 innings, a total of 6 strikeouts. Really good stuff from Espino, Edwards, and Finnegan. Nats get the lead. Tanner Rainey comes in the bottom of the 9th to end the game. And he has some problems here. Rainey did not look great in the win on Friday night, although he did get the save. He did get the job done. He didn't give up any runs. Well, Rainey in this game did give up a run. He gave up a 1-out solo homer to Brandon Drury to right center field to cut the Nats lead to 10-8. And Rainey then gave up a 1-out single to Tommy Pham to center field, despite Pham having been down to the count at 1.12. You said, uh-oh. We saw Rainey blow those 2 saves earlier this season. You thought we might see something similar here, especially with the nature of this game. This game never felt safe, okay? At no point in this game did you feel great about things as a Nats fan, and it turns out you should have never felt great about things as a Reds fan. But Rainey ended up getting the 3 outs, ultimately got the save, improved to 7-9 on saves this season. But with the bullpen, the takeaway here really is what Espino, Edwards, and Finnegan did over those 6th, 7th, and 8th innings. So we on Saturday had everything that happened in this wild 10-8 win for the Nats at the Reds, and we had what happened for the Nats' AAA affiliate, the Rochester Red Wings.
Taylor swings and misses. The fastball down, struck him out.
Cade Cavalli started Game 1 of a doubleheader, and he was very good for a third consecutive start. Cavalli in a 5-1 home win for the Rochester Red Wings over the Buffalo Bisons in Game 1 of a doubleheader on Saturday. 1 run in 7 innings, 10 strikeouts. He gave up just 5 hits, all of which were singles. He issued 2 walks. He threw 93 pitches, 64 strikes versus 29 balls. So Cade Cavalli now, over his last 3 starts, has allowed just 2 runs in 19 innings with 20 strikeouts. We call that improvement from what had been happening with Cade Cavalli. Cavalli, over his first 7 starts for Rochester this season, had an ERA of 7.62. It was not that long ago that we had the conversation on this podcast of what's happening with Cade Cavalli, and why exactly is his ERA approaching 8, 7 starts into his season here for Rochester? Remember him having struggled for AAA Rochester in his brief time with Rochester last season. Well, 3 starts since the ERA was at 7.62. Cade Cavalli has been lights out again. 19 innings, 2 runs, 20 strikeouts. It certainly would appear that we're getting very close to the Nats calling up Cade Cavalli to the major league level. Now, you never know with certainty what Mike Rizzo is thinking about someone like this. Maybe there are things that Rizzo still doesn't love about what he's seeing from Cade Cavalli, but certainly the results over these last 3 outings have been really good. And with the state of the Nats right now, and with the Nats having just engineered 2 pretty significant promotions in the minors, with Cole Henry being promoted from AA Harrisburg to AAA Rochester, and with Jake Irvin being promoted from High A Wilmington to AA Harrisburg, it feels like the Nats, also when you throw into the mix the calling up of Luis Garcia from AAA Rochester, the Nats now maybe are getting more aggressive about pushing guys through the system, getting guys up to the major league level, and seeing what these guys are about and seeing where these guys are at. Now, you're not just going to promote guys, right? But if guys are doing well and are proving worthy of being promoted, okay, maybe it's time to put the pedal to the metal, right? Put your foot on the gas here a little bit and try to expedite the process here. Well, Cade Cavalli really good over his last 3 starts, and you would think that we're getting quite close to him finally being called up to the major league level. Cade Cavalli is ranked by MLB Pipeline as the number 48 prospect in baseball. The Nats took him with the number 22 pick in the 2020 MLB draft out of the University of Oklahoma. This season is his age 23 season, and when he does make his major league debut, and he pretty clearly is going to make it this season and probably within the next month, I would guess, but again, we don't know anything for sure. But when he does make his major league debut, that's going to be a huge deal. It's going to be a really big deal. It's going to be exciting. And if he pitches well for the Nats this season at the major league level, boy, you cannot overstate how big that is for a Nats organization that has not drafted and developed a true quality starting pitcher in a really long time. Truth be told, that really hasn't happened since Stephen Strasburg, okay? I mean, if you're being just flat out honest about things, the last starting pitcher who the Nats drafted, developed, and then reaped the benefits of at the major league level was Stephen Strasburg, okay? Stephen Strasburg was the number 1 pick in the 2009 MLB draft. Like I said, Cade Cavalli was the Nats' first-round pick in 2020. It has been a while since the Nats drafted, developed, and reaped the benefits of a true quality starting pitcher at the major league level. Now, speaking of Stephen Strasburg, and speaking of being close to pitching in the majors, so Stephen Strasburg certainly appears to be close to making his season debut for the Nats at the major league level off his season-ending surgery to address thoracic outlet syndrome last July 28th. We learned prior to Saturday's win at the Reds that Stephen Strasburg has a locker at Great American Ballpark and was on his way to the ballpark. Now, nothing is official, but it is looking like there's a really good chance here that his minor league rehab assignment is done. Now, you got to see that he continues to feel well, but he certainly did well on Friday night in his third minor league rehab assignment start. Strasburg on Friday night in a 2-1 home win for the AAA Rochester Red Wings over the Buffalo Bisons. 6 scoreless innings, 4 strikeouts versus 1 walk and 1 hit. He over 83 pitches through 50 strikes versus 33 balls. This was his third start of his minor league rehab assignment, his second straight really good start. Strasburg last Sunday afternoon, a 7-4 home win for the low-A Fredericksburg Nationals over the Salem Red Sox. 5 scoreless innings, 6 strikeouts versus 1 walk, and no hits. So we'll see here, but it certainly feels like Strasburg is going to finally pitch for the Nats at the major league level this season sometime within the next week. Again, with that caveat of he continues to feel well. He doesn't wake up one morning and all of a sudden his shoulder hurts or his neck hurts or anything like that. So that'll be exciting. I mean, I've said it. It's hard to be really optimistic, really bullish about Strasburg with his injury history and with this very serious ailment that he's coming back from, thoracic outlet syndrome. But that doesn't mean that he isn't Stephen Strasburg. No, he is still Stephen Strasburg. And even the potential for him to get back to being the Stephen Strasburg who we knew, or even a close enough approximation of that person, that is a carrot worth pursuing, okay? Because if you can somehow get that guy back or a close approximation of that guy, that really does change the conversation for the Nationals with their rebuild. Game 4 for the Nats at the Reds is on Sunday afternoon at 1:40. Patrick Corbin will be the Nats starting pitcher. Speaking of people trying to get back to what they once were. Well, you tell us what you think. You can tweet us at Nats_chat. You can email us, natschatpodcast@gmail.com, including if you would like to sponsor the Nats Chat Podcast, email Tim Shovers. Again, that email address is natschatpodcast@gmail.com. You can get yourself or someone you know a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt by going to natschatpodcast.square.site. That's natschatpodcast.square.site. If you're listening to this podcast on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, please give the podcast a 5-star rating if you haven't done that yet. You also can write a review of this podcast if you're using Apple Podcasts. You don't have to write anything substantial, just 1 or 2 sentences saying that you like the podcast, saying what you like about the podcast. The ratings and the reviews help to make the podcast successful, and we very much appreciate you guys for doing the ratings and the reviews. Nats Chat is on the radio on Sunday morning. Sunday mornings at 9 on 106.1 ESPN in Richmond. You can listen online at espnrichmond.com, and Sunday mornings at 9 on Sports Radio 96.5 FM and 850 AM in the Hampton Roads area. You can listen online at sportsradio965fm.com. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. Mark will be back with me on the next installment of the Nats Chat podcast. Until then, I'm Al Galdi. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat podcast.
Randy Johnson pitches 6 great innings and wins number 300.